What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the arcade. I wanted to talk today more on phone addiction. It's just something that really bothers me. I have more to say on it. I wanted to tell, kind of a personal story of something that happened to me, I guess, last summer. I was delivering pizzas at the time, actually, and I left the shop. I had multiple deliveries, whatever. I had just kind of a sense of urgency to me, I guess. So I was driving a little too fast, I guess. But, I'm driving down a little road there, and there's a lady to my right. I could see her out of my passenger side window. And I'd seen this lady a bunch of times before. She always walks with headphones on, staring down into her phone. So she's clearly not aware of her surroundings. And she's walking around a shopping center. And she does this regularly, so this is a place where cars were constantly coming and going. But anyway, I can see her. And I'm about to make this right turn. And as I'm doing that, she's about to step off into the road there. And she enters into my little blind spot. That like diagonal spot on your car where your windshield and, where like your mirror meets. That little spot there. So I couldn't see her as she was stepping off, but my instinct kicked in and I remembered like, oh, there was a person there a second ago. So I stopped, and sure enough, she comes walking out into my line of sight. If I hadn't stopped, I probably would have hit her. And then, as she passes, I make the turn, and then, it's summertime, so the windows were down, and she looks over her shoulder and she's like, "You could see me." And I didn't say anything. I just kept going, drove off. And I was just thinking to myself, like, lady, you're walking around in a shopping center with headphones on, staring down into your phone. And she does this all the time. I watched her walk for, a full minute before, off in the distance, and she's literally looking into her phone the whole time, never looking up. And that just kind of seems to be the world we live in now. It's like people are out in nature, at the gym, walking around in parks, places where you're supposed to be, enjoying your surroundings, and yet people just can't seem to be not looking to their phones. It seems to be, it's a real problem, and it's happening, all over the place, all the time. I found some statistics that kind of highlight the seriousness of this issue. It's kind of a broad thing I found. It says surveys show 53% of cell phone users say they had a close call while distracted walking. Some safety analysis estimate around 2,500 pedestrian deaths in a year involve distracted walking behaviors. In the United States, a pedestrian is killed roughly every 72 minutes in traffic crashes. Now, I think that has more to do with kind of traffic crashes across the board, but I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot of that has to do to either distracted driving, distracted walking, a combination of both. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed it. I know I do. People on their phones while they're driving all the time. People on their phones while they're walking, like that lady I described. It's like, just put your phone down and just enjoy where you are. I remember being a kid back in the 90s, walking home from school with my friends. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say. I noticed high school kids walking home from school. There'd be like a group of them. And they'll all be on their phones, just like walking on the sidewalk, just on their phones. It's like, put your phones down and talk to each other. That's what me and my friends did. We walked home. We didn't have phones. We walked home and we just talked and joked, and we had a good time. It was a lot of fun. But nowadays, it's a big problem with these kids on their phones constantly. People driving on their phones constantly. And listen, phones are incredible tools. You have a whole universe of information right there at your fingertips, right there in your pocket. Anywhere you go, all the time. But I don't really think that we were meant to be disconnected to each other all the time. I think there's something's going on mentally due to the fact that we're just constantly connected to, you have a connection to the entire world all the time. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I look back to when I was young, before cell phones. Well, there were cell phones, but there weren't smartphones. It's being out there in the world with my friends. It's like we had no connection to anyone. We were just out there riding our bikes around out there in the world, sometimes probably going a little further than we should. Our parents had no idea where we were. We were just out there doing our thing, having fun, staying out till, it almost gets dark, and then you kind of race home. But I feel like as a young kid back then, having no connection to your mom and dad, no connection to your phone or to your home, to your house, it kind of made you have to kind of grow up a little faster, reach maturity a little faster, because there was a sense of responsibility being out there in the world with no way to contact your parents if you needed to at a moment's notice. So you had to you kind of had to be a little more careful about your decisions, knowing that like the decisions I make while we're out here together, they matter. If you get hurt, something happens, your parents aren't going to know about it right away. I remember another story. I was in 4th grade. This is actually at school though. Recess playing soccer, and I ended up tripping, and I caught myself with my right hand, and I broke my right wrist. And I ended up having to leave school early and go to the hospital. The school couldn't get a hold of my mom. So my aunt came and got me, took me to the hospital, and my mom eventually came to school to pick me up, and I wasn't there. And my friends are like running up to my mom like, how's Nick? How's he doing? Is he okay? And this was the first she was hearing about it. She literally had no idea that I had gotten hurt at all. So she's finding out about it from my friends right there on the spot. But I ended up being okay. I just a couple cracks in my right wrist. Got a cast put on. And it was all good. I haven't broken a bone since. All the way back in 4th grade to now. Still, that was the only time I've ever been in a cast. I did tear my tendon off my bicep though, a few years ago. I've been training jiu-jitsu since 2012. And right after all the lockdowns in 2020 happened, the gym shut down, and that was like the longest period of time I didn't train jiu-jitsu for. And I think my body was just kind of like, kind of not used to that. I'd been on the mat consistently since I started, But, the lockdowns lift, we start going back to training with a friend of mine, and I muscled a sweep too hard, and I could feel a tear right at my elbow, just below my bicep, and I knew something was wrong. So I, had to stop. I did get the sweep. 6 a.m. class. Ended up getting the sweep. Yeah, totally worth it, right? Not really. But yeah, I ended up having to get surgery to get the tendon reattached. So that plus the cracked wrist back in 4th grade are the only 2 significant injuries I've ever had. Hopefully it stays that way. But bringing it back to phone distraction. One day you'll look back at your life and, you won't remember all the posts you scrolled through and the random videos you watched, the comment sections, the arguments you've had with total strangers on the internet. I know I've done that. And it's totally not worth it. You'll remember the real things, though. Road trip conversations, late night conversations, the time you spent with the people you love, the sound of people laughing when you're just joking around with them, the feeling of just being fully present. Those are the things that actually matter. But you can't experience them if your mind is always off somewhere else. So, in closing here, I just kind of wanted to say, let's just try to be present more. Let's try to enjoy the moment instead of constantly having your mind hold in a million different directions. So stay present. You'll be happy you did. But I don't know, I guess that's it for this one. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll catch you in the next one.